Welcome back into CBS Sports HQ on a Wednesday. How do you say it, Chris? Wednesday. On a little Wednesday here. We're going to talk about the Detroit Lions. We have the trade deadline that is just around the corner. Lions this season, look, they're the second betting favorite to win the Super Bowl, sitting behind the Kansas City Chiefs. So if you want to put a little money on them, maybe not a bad bet. They're 3-0 at home. They are 2-2 on the road. Offensive points per game, third in the NFL. Could do a little bit better on defense, but still not too shabby. That said, the goal is the Super Bowl. So we are going to try to get them there. Well, Ryan Wilson is joining us, our draft expert. In this instance, you're going to be a trade expert. You're going to give us 5 trades to try to help the Lions. Ryan, give me an idea. When you look at this team, before we get into specifics, where do they specifically need help?
Hey, man, a happy Wednesday to you and Hassel there. So they need help in terms of staying healthy because that's the issue with them. They struggle to stay healthy. Luckily, they have Jared Goff and that high-powered offense with Jahmyr Gibbs and Amon-Ra St. Brown to sort of help them along the way. But in terms of needs, edge rusher is a position. We've talked about that in part because Marcus Davenport has not been able to stay healthy. Aiden Hutchinson is back from that leg injury that robbed him of the second half of last season. In the secondary, Brian Branch missed time, obviously, because of the suspension. But Kirby Joseph has missed time because of injury. Terrion Arnold has missed time because of injury. So the injury bug is the real bugaboo, if you will, for that team. But that's where they need help most. Defensive line, edge rush position specifically, and, of course, in the secondary.
All right, well, let's start here with your top one. And you told me this is the one that you would want the most. Maybe it's not the most realistic. Is Dolphins defensive end Jaelan Phillips. How would this trade go down?
Yeah, you'd have to imagine that the Dolphins are in the market to move a lot of people not named Jalen Waddle, it sounds like, just because they're not a very good football team. And Jaelan Phillips is a former first-round pick from the U who, when healthy, can take over games. The issue is that he has struggled to stay healthy. But I love the idea of him being the bookend to Aiden Hutchinson in Detroit, where he's not asked to do everything because Aiden Hutchinson will be doing a large part of that. Aiden leads the team with 6 sacks. A.Q. Muhammad has 5 sacks as a role player, part-time player. I think Jaelan Phillips comes in and can be a difference maker right away as just solely a pass rusher. So I think that's a huge. And by the way, as I interrupt myself here, that graphic there, Aleem McNeil being back is a huge development for the middle of that defense. He was an impactful player from the moment he stepped on the field on Monday night. So I love the idea of Jaelan Phillips being there opposite Aiden Hutchinson.
Let's go to the secondary, and I think this is what I heard, that for the Lions, everybody who started in the secondary this past game, not one of them was there in week 1. So there's been just so much rotation there. So you are looking for a cornerback. Who is it and what team?
Yeah, so I got a couple names here. Alontae Taylor currently plays for the Saints, and the great thing about him is that he's long and physical, and he also can play multiple positions in the secondary. And when you're talking about the Lions secondary that struggles with injuries at every single position, that's what makes Alontae Taylor so intriguing. It'll probably cost a little bit to get him, but we know that Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell are unafraid to spend draft capital to get a player that they think can be impactful. And I don't know where the Saints are in terms of moving Alontae Taylor specifically because he's such an important part of their secondary. But it would be a conversation I'd be willing to have if I'm Brad Holmes calling Mickey Loomis asking about Alontae Taylor, because not only is he a really good player, he can play several positions in a secondary that's been ravaged by injuries in Detroit.
You're also looking at Cam Taylor-Britt with the Bengals, and you told me this might be the most realistic, and it does look like they could be interested in trading him.
Right, and you have to ask yourself, why would the Bengals want to trade Cam Taylor-Britt? Well, he got benched because he wasn't playing up to the standards, and I have to say this laughing, of that Bengals defense, which has not been very good. But again, he's a long, physical cornerback. He can get a little handsy at times, but he does have ball skills. He's going to play primarily outside. They like physical cornerback play in Detroit with Kelvin Shepherd, and I think he fits there. But the thing is, you have to get him out of those bad habits that landed him on the bench in Cincinnati. The upside, if you're Detroit, is that you can probably get him at a much cheaper rate than you might have to pay for someone like Alontae Taylor. And he's still only 26 years old, so there's a chance he can turn this thing around and return to the form that we saw a couple years ago when he was a starter week in and week out in Cincinnati.
Let's go to the offensive side of the ball, specifically the O-line there. Some trades you're looking at, one of them being Braxton Jones with the Bears.
Yeah, so he got benched for an undrafted free agent in Chicago, and he's a good player. Final year of his deal, plays tackle, and the only reason I have him on this list is, again, injuries. We saw Taylor Decker go down. Saw Gio Manu go down the backup, and they had their third tackle out there. Dan Skipper having to start a football game. Taylor Decker's back, but Braxton Jones provides some insurance down the stretch because, we're talking about this because the Lions are a legit Super Bowl team, and if you lose your first two tackles, you need to have a plan C in that case. Now, a lot of credit goes to Dan Skipper for being able to man that position for a game, but I think you'd like to have a more stable backup plan in the form of Braxton Jones should you be able to land him.
Offensive guard, looking at Wyatt Teller with the Browns. Why do you like this, and could it happen?
Yeah, sort of the same conversation. Just stock up on big guys on the interior because this offense is only going to go as far as you allow Jared Goff in that run game to take them. And this is basically insurance against worst-case scenario injuries happening. And I know they've been able to sustain those injuries for the first half of the season. But you just have to be careful because you don't want to play with fire and then have this whole thing sort of blow up in your face when you lose key cogs to that offensive line to injury. Wyatt Teller, I believe, was also in the last year of his deal. He's still just 30 years old, so he can play. He has battled some injuries, however, but I love the idea of just stockpiling positions and making a run for it. And if this means overpaying in the short term by way of draft capital or maybe even players, but you guarantee at least a really good opportunity to win the Super Bowl, it feels like a gamble worth making.
Just trying to look around. I mean, it looks like the Eagles are interested in him. The Cowboys could be interested in him as well. A lot of teams there. Let me ask you this when it comes to the Lions. Do you think they need to make some of these trades in order to truly be a Super Bowl contender? I mean, as of right now, look, they're at the top. How do you feel about the Lions potentially being a realistic Super Bowl contender?
Really, really, really good. And again, they're not 100% healthy. So as long as you have keeping Jared Goff upright and you have Jahmyr Gibbs back there with David Montgomery and, of course, Amon-Ra St. Brown and all those playmakers, J-Mo, and so on and so forth, I feel like they're in a great spot. This is more precautionary than anything. It's like stretching before you go outside and do a bunch of wind sprints. You could probably get away with doing wind sprints without pulling a hamstring, but fingers crossed just in case. I'll do a little stretching and hopefully give myself a better chance of making it to the finish line.
Ryan Wilson, I appreciate it. I appreciate your time. You gave me some good advice of where I went over the weekend, Ryan. You did not tell me, though, that the only place I could find wine was a boxed wine. So I will give you a check mark for that. Ryan Wilson, the host of With the First Pick podcast. Make sure to download and listen or watch it to see Ryan's lovely face.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you.
Big news coming out of the NFL. A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
With highlights.
What a finish at the final round of play.
And in-depth analysis.
Can they three-peat? Tony Romo joins the conversation.
What can you say about this game?
When you need your sports in a snap,
we're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
Find it on CBS Sports HQ. Streaming free anywhere you are.